so that just people are not really mindful and seeing what's happening because of the stuff around them. And then another theory is the idea that people who have hoarding difficulties have a very difficult time tolerating any negative emotion whatsoever, and that sometimes the accumulation of possessions is done in the service of regulating negative emotions. So if you're feeling bad, I've got to go get another paper. Or feeling a little anxious, I got to get some more papers. Or I've got to get some more whatever. Like, oh, here's I'm feeling a little bad. We need to add another cat. And it's not only adding, but the idea of then taking any of this away is intolerable. And if someone just can't tolerate any negative feelings whatsoever and will do anything to avoid that, the idea of removing something from the collection, from the house, just jacks up somebody's anxiety and negative emotion to an intolerable level, and is just not able to face that. So those people who I mentioned, the third people who recognize, I've got to, I recognize this as an issue, but I cannot fathom changing a thing. I can't imagine the idea of getting rid of anything is intolerable. That is the idea of not being able to really tolerate having negative feelings whatsoever. So how do we treat? Well, we don't really treat on TV, but that's how hoarding has come into the public consciousness, where we've become voyeurs and we are welcomed, actually usually not welcome, but we're invited into the homes of people who have hoarding, and we watch in horror at all this stuff and think, how could that possibly be? And then we watch different forms of interventions. Well-meaning family members convince a relative to leave and for the weekend and go up to Napa, and then while the person is gone, they go and completely gut the house and clear it out, thinking, boy, are they going to feel good when they come back and see that I've really, I've just come in and organized and cleaned everything, they're going to be so happy. And usually they're mortified, that has happened. That's not typically an effective treatment. But when it comes, again, exposure is a treatment for hoarding. The question is it best done gradual versus all at once? And so the all at once treatment may depend upon the person and their ability to tolerate negative emotion. For some people, a gradual treatment may actually, gradual exposure, meaning, and here what we mean by exposure is kind of a gradual removal of things. That may actually provoke more negative feelings, anxiety, than just doing it all at once. But for other people, doing it all at once may just be absolutely horrific and not effective, because people will then restart the accumulation all over again, in the service again of maybe regulating emotion or bolstering the beliefs about the self. If somebody's beliefs about themselves are all tied with the collection that they've maintained for 35 years and all of a sudden it's gone, they've got to kind of rethink themselves, and it can just cause all sorts of trouble. So I'd say the most typical way people are treated now is gradual exposure, working with people to gradually organize and remove things. But very difficult, very slow-going treatment. All right, we're going to switch to PTSD, but I want to go back because you had a question before and I didn't answer. Yeah. Corpus callosum. Okay, the anterior cingulate. So neurosurgery has been used for severe cases of obsessive compulsive, but very rarely. Right, yeah. So that is not, I would say, something that's done very frequently at all. But it has been shown to be effective for some people who are absolutely paralyzed by thoughts and compulsive, typically thoughts more than the compulsive behaviors, but a combination of thoughts and compulsive behaviors that they just cannot stop and they have no relief from whatsoever. It seems to, yes. Yeah. I don't know that it does such a good job of replacing the anxiety, but the repetitive nature of things seems to be reduced. Yeah. All right, let's talk about PTSD here, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is something that's gone through a fairly significant change in DSM-5. So we're going to talk about two disorders here, PTSD, acute stress disorder. So here, this is one of the only disorders in the whole DSM and acute stress disorder that the cause is built into the diagnostic criteria. And the cause is a stressful event, something where you have experienced near death or serious injury, or you have witnessed near death or actual death or serious injury. And I'll talk about how DSM-5 has changed here in a minute. And then you may develop symptoms like what are called intrusive symptoms, like having flashbacks to that event. So we think of PTSD as fairly common in wartime, people who've been serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, and were exposed to IEDs, bombs going off all the time, and watching friends, comrades die, maybe themselves being severely injured. People have flashbacks as if they're back, they're in Afghanistan and seeing the thing happen all over again. Be flashback nightmares, another kind of form of intrusive symptom. Avoidance then, avoidance of situations, places, anything that may trigger the memory, the experience of the traumatic event. So someone who has maybe served in Iraq or Afghanistan, it's not going back to Iraq or Afghanistan necessarily that is the only thing that they would avoid, but they certainly would if possible, although many people are sadly redeployed. But avoiding situations like that might remind them of that in any shape or form. So being in a crowded space, for example, or in an unpredictable situation, or where there's loud noises like firecrackers or something, anything that sounds like gunfire. Anything that triggers this response then can become avoided. Third class of symptoms are just all sorts of negative emotions, anxiety, anger, irritation, depression, all of them a toxic stew of negative feelings that are there a lot, as well as thoughts, very hopeless thoughts, very confusing thoughts are a hallmark of PTSD, bless you. And then arousal and reactivity symptoms, here being hypervigilant, hypersensitive to noises. So if I did that, somebody might have like a full body startle response where they would jump up and have a really strong reaction to an unexpected noise. So very strong arousal, reactivity in the body, sorts of symptoms. Now, acute stress disorder, this is similar, it was at least in DSM-4, similar to the symptoms of PTSD, but then there are a few different symptoms. The key distinction was the duration of this. So for acute stress disorder, somebody might develop those same symptoms, but they last a minimum, they have to be a minimum of 3 days, but no more than 1 month. If the symptoms last more than 1 month, then excuse me, you're going to meet the criteria for PTSD. Acute stress disorder, the name acute meaning something, a stress reaction, people are having flashbacks, nightmare, some dissociative experiences that have happened, but the symptoms don't last as long. Now, in DSM-4, it used to be the case that you must have developed these symptoms within 1 month of the traumatic event happening. So say you're in a horrific car accident, and people were injured, and you saw lots of blood, and in fact somebody's arm was cut off or something that was really horrible. And then a week later, all of a sudden you're having these nightmares, and you're hypervigilant, and you've got this toxic stew of negative thoughts and feelings, and you're having trouble sleeping. You would have met the DSM criteria, DSM-4 criteria for acute stress disorder. In DSM-5, they've removed that last piece there, the idea that these symptoms must develop within 1 month of the traumatic event. Now, it doesn't matter if they develop within 1 month, 1 day, 1 year, 10 years. If the symptom duration is short, it's going to meet the criteria for acute stress disorder. So here's just a little vignette. So you can take a second to read this and tell me what the correct diagnosis would be here for Gary. Anybody? acute? Neither. Now, that's not entirely fair because I didn't tell you enough information, but it's tricky. So, first of all, what's new in DSM-5 to meet the diagnostic criteria for acute stress disorder, first of all, the symptoms can develop any time, but you have to have 9 symptoms now. Used to be, you only had to have 4 or 5. Now you got to have 9. And this, Gary does not have 9 symptoms. For PTSD, you've got to have at least 4 symptoms, and the symptoms have to last for a month or more, which is probably why all of you thought, well, that's not PTSD because he hasn't had symptoms maybe for a month or more. So, acute stress disorder, there was kind of a push to remove it from DSM-4, really, let alone DSM-5, because several people questioned whether or not it's actually a distinct diagnostic entity. Isn't it just PTSD that is, develops? But the symptoms are all different now in DSM-5. There's some similar symptoms to PTSD, but now you got to have 9 of them. And people regularly question whether or not we're pathologizing something that is a typical reaction. You've just been in a horrible car accident. Isn't it a typical reaction to have a number of these symptoms? It was a horribly traumatic event. Do we need to pathologize it? And the counter-argument would be, well, we're pathologizing it. We're calling it acute stress disorder so that people can then get help for it, and not think that they have to continue and suffer and think, well, I'll just get over it. This is a horrible thing. I feel like crap, but eventually I'll get over it. So instead, by saying, well, no, that we're calling it acute stress disorder, and we can help you and provide treatment for it. So it's still, I think, it's still kind of a controversial category. Another potential controversy that may bubble up in DSM-5 here is that the definition of the stressor, its criterion A in the DSM-5, has been broadened now. And in several ways. So first of all, in DSM-4, you used to have not only exposure to a traumatic event or vicarious exposure, but you also had to experience intense fear or hopelessness or horror. They've taken that out now. So now to meet the criteria for PTSD, you don't have to have these negative feelings. You just have to be exposed to it. And they've broadened what counts as the it. What is the stressful event? So they've added language to include sexual violation, which is probably long overdue. There are many men and women in particular who've been sexually violated, raped, assaulted, who develop PTSD. And so that's just now made explicit. But now what has been added is that if you yourself have experienced a traumatic event, you've been sexually assaulted or in an accident or in a war, or if you've witnessed somebody else experience, in a car accident in war, or now, even if you just know that someone, if you know about your loved one who was sexually assaulted or in war, just knowing that somebody else close to you experienced that is enough now to meet the definition of a traumatic event for you. So if I know that my brother was in the Marines and experienced, an IED blast where he was injured and people close to him were killed, that counts as a trauma for me, even though I wasn't there. That seems a little broad, doesn't it? Now, I'm sure a number of instances where this may actually be applicable, but it seems to be a bit broad now. So I wonder, we'll see in the coming years if more people now are going to be diagnosed with PTSD because of this broadening of the stressor. Now, I have a feeling that's probably not going to work here because it never just seems to, but I'm just going to not even try. But we are going to watch this woman and her experience. I don't think there's any question whether or not she experienced some trauma.
Rural village in KwaZulu-Natal. I had been warned, like every South African, whether they were Zulu or Afrikaans or British, it didn't matter. They always told these stories about the women being gang raped and left out in the bush. Oh, it was just horrible. So I made the commitment to myself that if that was ever going to happen, they were going to have to kill me first. I was basically hitching in the ambulance, and the ambulance driver's name was Kenny, and we're driving, and then there's a cow in the middle of the road. So we stopped the car because he's smack in the middle, and then I felt something on the back of my head, like if you knocked your, I thought, did I just hit my head on the window frame? Like, what did I hit my head on? And then when I looked this way, I saw the AK-47 pointed to Kenny. They were boys. It had to be 17, 18 years old. So they're all screaming, and then he starts pushing me towards the back of the ambulance, and I'm screaming in Zulu. And I'm like, just shoot me. I'm not getting in that. I'm not getting in the back because I thought they were going to put me in there. No, I'd rather be dead. And then they shot Kenneth. They jumped in the car and they took off with the ambulance. So I'm sitting like in the middle of nowhere with a man. Thank God he was like dead instant. If you saw it, you're just, they got it happened quickly.
Post-traumatic stress has affected my father deeply.
It's the continual remembering. I was going through a severe guilt and loneliness and a lot of replay of my POW and combat experiences.
And it's only been the last 5 years that the post-traumatic stress has become really known to me. And then all of a sudden there was the aha moment where, oh, well, that's why he did that, and that's why he did this.
A good marriage, good wife, good family, good job, and I was dissatisfied.
Because of the post-traumatic stress, he left the family because he couldn't achieve what he thought he needed to achieve in saving the world.
And I ended up in a divorce, and that was painful. But I was drawn. I was drawn to something else. There was something else that I had to be doing. And same with marriage. It wasn't it.
Saving the world was more important than his children, his family, his career, his health.
All right, I'll stop that there. So we're going to run out of time here. I'll finish up on Thursday with a couple of more thoughts about PTSD causes and treatments, and then we'll move over into personality disorders.